What is going on, everybody? How is everybody doing today? Welcome back here today to Just Spawn, where today we are going to pretty much rank into a tier list every rookie's season so far. I have a tier list showing of all 58 rookies that were drafted. I could hop into some undrafted rookies at the end of this, because shout out to Justin Edwards balling out against the Thunder the other night for the depleted Philadelphia 76ers. But we have 6 tiers, highest one being all NBA upside. I'm actually curious to believe if I think there is a player in this class with all NBA upside, meaning they're going to be a top 15 player in the NBA. We have at least one time All-Star in their career. I think they can get on one. It could be as a reserve. So basically thinking that they could be like a top 30-ish player one day. Next tier is, I think they could be a very good starter at their peak. That's saying that could be like, yeah, you're not going to be an all-star, but you could maybe be like, not OG Anunoby, because that's like a really good starter. So maybe that's a bad example. I would say like somebody better than Rui Hashimura. Those are just some of the names coming to my mind. Denny Avdia, stuff like that. Showing promise. Like maybe it hasn't been perfect this year so far because we're only half of their rookie seasons. And then we have a lot to work on. So basically they are raw as a prospect and then haven't seen enough. Either they haven't really played or they've been hurt this year. So I'm excited to do this. If you guys are watching on YouTube, feel free to drop a thumbs up if you do enjoy this style of content, and you can always let me know in the comments what you agree or disagree with. It's just kind of me wanting to get my thoughts about this rookie class. Something I watched a ton of these guys at college and international play and G League Ignite play last year, that we're going to now see them at the NBA level. We are seeing them at the NBA level, and it's cool to see. And then, I just pretty much wanted to talk about this rookie class today, and that's what this channel and this podcast platform is for. So basically I could just talk on whatever I want to talk about. So I will be kind of toggling through between their stats basically going forward, just to like have a reference point off the top of my head. So we could start off with number 1 overall pick himself, Zaccharie Risacher. I did tweet out yesterday like how there's an elite stretch of number 1 picks now that Cade Cunningham is like taking that step this year. 2020 you had Ant, 21 Cade, 22 Paolo, 23 Wemby, and I'm like, that is an elite stretch. And I felt bad because so many Hawks fans in the comments of that or replying to that tweet were like, why is this the year we got the number 1 pick? But Risacher honestly has shown, I think, more defensive upside than I thought we were going to see this year. And I think we've seen some real flashes for him. The shot has been very inconsistent this year, but that's pretty much what he doesn't need to be anything more than that so far. Just kind of looking at his splits by month, you can see like the usage percentage has dropped off a little bit after being definitely more focused. It seemed like in December and November, I mean, like a 52% true shooting was pretty good for somebody of his caliber. I think we're up and down with Risacher's rookie year. I would say that at his peak right now, I think he's a good starter. Do I think Risacher could be an all-star one day? Maybe. I mean, I think it would have to go right for him with his shot. Can he be a consistent three-point shooter enough where he's going to shoot 38% from 3? That can 100% come. I like the mechanics. I like the shot diet. And it seemed like Alex Sarr didn't want to go to Atlanta for whatever reason, even though I just love to see him catching lobs from Trae Young. But I do think that I don't think Risacher is ever going to be better offensively than Jalen Johnson, especially I just like Jalen Johnson's game offensively more coming out of Duke. But I do think he could be better defensively if he's not already, because he's 19 years old still, 6'8". He's going to grow into his body, and he's got a lot to learn in this league. Could he make an all-star in his career? Yes. I think wherever I drop these guys in a tier, there's room for error. I'm literally grading them off half of their first season, so they have plenty of ball left in their career. I think that Risacher could be a good starter in this league, and at his best is the 3-and-D guy that can also put you on a poster. Next up, we have Mr. Cody Williams. Yeah, we have a lot to work on for Cody Williams, because Cody Williams, there were a lot of question marks coming out of Colorado. I saw the potential. There's the length. There was some shot creating ability, but man, we have seen him appear in 23 games this year. Now, he has gotten a decent amount of time in these games too, because the Jazz have not been good, or they've had their fair share of injuries this year. And I think there has been some encouraging moments for Cody Williams, and he's back up and down, like from the G League, he's back up now. But I think for seeing what he is, we're going to have a lot to work on, mainly on the offensive end. I think he could be a good defender in this league because of the potential. He's going to put on weight over time. And hey, his older brother is Jalen Williams. Like, I think he's got the talent. As talented as Jalen Williams, maybe not. But what? Jalen Williams was drafted as a 22-year-old, 21-year-old. He was drafted as a 21-year-old. And then Cody Williams was drafted as a 19-year-old. So I think we still have more room to grow. Like, when I can actually pull up what Jalen Williams was doing when he was Cody Williams' age. But I'm just saying, like, there's definitely room to grow for Cody, and I saw that at Colorado. Yeah, because at his age, he was pretty much averaging 7 points at Santa Clara, or 11.5 points at Santa Clara, shooting 39% from the field and 27% from three. And then we saw that age 19 a year 20 jump at Santa Clara. So maybe Cody Williams could have benefited staying at college a little bit more, but they're pretty much like the same. I mean, Cody's slightly taller, but he's 30 pounds lighter. So I think you give him an offseason where it's not really focused on the NBA draft and it's him growing on his body, I think he could still be a good player in this league. And it was always a project play with him at number 10. It's just, it seems too, like, I think, chaotic on the floor right now for him trying to figure out what he wants to be at the NBA level. And is he going to be a guy that prioritizes his offensive, like, or his scoring, or is he going to be somebody that's going to find a role on a team in the half court? Because I think he could be a fine player, and Utah's a good place for him to be because they're going to be bad this year. They should be bad for the next couple of years, especially if they hit even more of a rebuild button in the offseason. But yeah, Cody Williams, I mean, this year the shot has not been falling. He's taken some bad shots, but I still believe in him. I still liked him a little bit more than I think everybody came down on him at Colorado. I didn't think he was a top 10 prospect, or he was right around that range. I'm trying to remember my big board. But I think Utah will be a good place for him to grow. Next up, we have Matas Buzelis, who, man, I tweeted out too the other day, like, he's one of the guys I'd like to see get more playing time and shots up in the second half of the year, because he's averaging 12 minutes per game this year. He has appeared in 37 games for the Bulls. His last 4 games have been double-digit minutes, but you're seeing him take 2 shots, 3 shots, 4 shots. It's not a lot for him to grow offensively. I think he's been on the Windy City Bulls this year. I could be wrong there, actually. Yeah, maybe I am wrong this year. But I think Matas, like, showed great promise in the summer league, preseason play. And his three-point shot actually has been, like, okay this year, which was a question mark. And I think another thing was him was creating separation in the half court offensively. But man, he's 6'10", can handle the rock well. He's 20 years old. He's incredibly young. It's just like, I also like believe Chicago is got the same record this year than they had last year and the year before that. It's just they're in this weird phase, and I'm pretty sure they want to trade LaVine and Vucevic. It's just they can't really do that right now because I don't think anybody's offering them anything. So until those guys are gone, I think Matas has showed promise, but I do think he has a lot to work on because this rookie year may not be a wash, but it may not be like that full reps that we're going to see this year, like something similar to I don't know, you can go Taylor Hendricks rookie year or Jarris Walker's rookie year, where it just really didn't capture the big picture for what he could be in his career. Same with Anthony Black's rookie year. Nikola Topic has been hurt so far, and yeah, haven't seen enough from him. I do wonder if he cracks the rotation this year with, I mean, AJ Mitchell just got hurt, but he's on the OKC Thunder. I don't know. Oh yeah, he's going to be out the whole 2025 season. Okay, yeah, so we're not going to see him this year. Devin Carter, I think from what I saw at Providence hasn't changed. I think he's going to be a really good starter in this league at his peak. If we, like, Devin Carter missed the first half of the year, basically. Has he lost a game? I don't think so. They are undefeated since he's come back. Now, they won the 2 games prior to that. But yeah, Devin Carter has basically won. He's undefeated. He hasn't lost a single game in his career. He's somebody that's going to be able to be a phenomenal rebounder at his height at 6'2", a little bit of Josh Hart vibes to him, and the shot I think will eventually come, and I think he's just going to be a winning player in this league who's going to dive for loose balls, who's going to know where he's supposed to be on the offensive side, and the defensive side can be a great help defender. And I do think like these guys are going to be good complementary pieces and connecting pieces, and that's pretty much what I had in mind for them in their pre-draft process. It's just they play kind of different when you have Reese Shea and Devin Carter and the good starter peak. So next up we got Bub Carrington, who is obviously not in the greatest situation in Washington in terms of just being able to be in a winning environment, having some good veterans there, but I've seen plenty of flashes from Bub this year, and I think he could be like that microwave scorer that maybe we thought Rob Dillingham was going to be pre-draft, and I think can still be in this league. I think Bub Carrington has showed promise. Do I want to say that he's going to be a good starter in this league? That could definitely happen for sure, because Bub is still incredibly young, 19 years old. He's going to be 19. He's going to be a teenager throughout the rest of the year, and I think he's shown a ton of promise. I'm excited to see him in a more winning environment, and I would say all these tiers that we're talking about are positive in a way. I'm not saying that nobody's anything that you could say that B word upon, because you can't really say that until year 3, year 4 of their rookie deal, depending on what they're looking like. And even then, they might not be a bust. You can have a year 6, 7 leap or kind of breakout season. We've seen it in the past. I think just showing promise is like, there's some bad with Bub on defense and maybe some of the shot selection, but there's some good because of the way he's able to kind of heat up and the way he's able to at least score the basketball in a terrible environment there in Washington. So it sucks that they're not able to win right now, and Bub is not going to get many wins in his rookie season, but hopefully him and the rest of the Wizards rookies and Bilal next year, I mean, it's a little bit better, but I don't know if I'm going to be too confident in that happening. I think Kel'el Ware has also showed some promise this year. It was always going to be tough for Kel'el just because he's behind Bam Adebayo, and it's tough for him to play adjacent to Bam, but he's been knocking down a little bit of his threes as of late. And he had a really good game with all the Jimmy Butler stuff going on the other week. It was against Indiana, yeah. In 21 minutes, I'm trying to talk too fast. He had 25 points. He didn't have a single rebound in that game, which was odd. But yeah, he played really good against the Clippers as well. And I don't think there's ever going to be a good starter peak that we're going to see throughout Miami, because unless it becomes this like floor spacing power forward, he's probably not going to start next to Bam, because Bam is not helping out with his shot this year. So I do think that Kel'el Ware has been good enough where he's going to be, I think, like he's going to be a good starter eventually, but I think he's just shown a little bit more promise this year, because I think his floor is lower than some other these guys, but his ceiling's higher as well. Like him and Bub have higher ceilings than Devin Carter, but definitely have lower floors. So I wonder if this is going to be my first All-NBA player, Jared McCain. Jared McCain's rookie season has been cut short. He was, I think, almost a lock to win Rookie of the Year if he didn't tears what, meniscus? Yeah, meniscus. He's out for the season. He had that stretch when Embiid was missing time, Paul George was missing time, even Maxey was missing time, and he was just on an absolute tear. Yeah, you go back to like his game log basically from November 8th, where I think was no, he wasn't even starting yet, but we saw him play 30 minutes for the first time in his career. And you basically look until like, I don't know if this is the time when Embiid came back for that Clippers game, but yeah, he was dropping 24 points on great efficiency throughout a 9-game stretch. The confidence in the shot, the ability to move without the ball in transition and in the half court. I do think Jared McCain can be an all-star one day if he were to be on a team where he can actually orchestrate as a top 3 option, maybe even a top 2 option. Will that be in Philadelphia? At least out of the next few years, if they're not going to trade Embiid, and obviously Maxey's not going anywhere. With or without Paul George, I think that may be tough to do. But I do think in his career, he could hit one-time All-Star. I do think he has that potential in this league where he can average high teens, low 20s, really good efficiency. And if that team is winning, like say one day he's a number 2 to Giannis Antetokounmpo or Jason Tatum. I don't know where the NBA is going to take him in 10 years, but that's, I think, his best opportunity where he could be a really good number 2 and he can end up making the All-Star game, even with his defense. Maybe not going to be all that good in this league. I do think he may have the biggest upside. Dalton Knecht, I think he'd be a good starter in this league. The thing about Dalton Knecht compared to like Kel'el Ware and Bob Carrington, he's 23 years old. Like he's 3 years older than some of those guys. He's been a good 3-point shooter this year, a positive 3-point shooter for the Lakers. He has had a 40-point game or a 30-point game, 37-point game back in November. Obviously, it's been a little bit inconsistent with his playing time at moments with JJ Redick, but he still can have his spurts where he's going to knock down a couple of threes. He can get to the rim, run in transition. He's still a physical player. I think at his peak, he could be a good starter. I don't think he's shown promise. Like he showed promise at Tennessee. He doesn't have too much to work on to round out his game. So I think it's more like the Devin Carter good starter peak. I think Tristan da Silva can be a good starter in this league, man. I think all these injuries this year for Orlando suck, but it's been a little bit of a blessing in disguise for Tristan. And he's older as well. He's 23 years old, and he just goes back and forth with his games as well, where he's going to be on one night a little bit more aggressive, not like 0 points against the Knicks, and then he drops 21 against Brooklyn. 0 points against Detroit, 25 points against Toronto. Maybe that's a good team, bad team thing. He had 16 points against Milwaukee. 3-point shot not fallen, which has been inconsistent all year. And I think it's going to be tough for him to get into that rhythm. I think he showed promise, but it's tough. I think like somebody that's 23 that showed promise to somebody that's like 19 that showed promise or 20. Like it's going to be a different, I think, career route for Da Silva. And it's probably going to be possible for him to start unless injuries happen, being behind Franz and Paolo, at least on that rookie deal. Next up, we have Jacoby Walter, who I think does have a lot to work on. And he's had some encouraging games this year. And I think Toronto with Darko Rajakovic is a fine spot for him to be, especially if this team is rebuilding, but they have a good front office, a good player development staff as we've seen in the past. Obviously, there's a lot of guys that they need to kind of work on right now with because maybe Emmanuel Quickley's been a little injury prone this year. They want to still mold Scotty to being their top guy. They have a lot of rookies into the fold. They're going to have another one this year with their topic in the draft, but I do think Walter needs to work on his shot diet a little bit, but I think he's got really good defensive energy right now, and I'm excited to watch him grow over time because I think there were these concerns at Baylor, but there's times where this guy can have a good mid-range jumper. The 3-point shot could be consistent. Have we seen that this year? Not as maybe large as a sample size as we would like, but I do think he's got the intangibles like Cody Williams, like Matas Buzelis, where he could be a good player one day, but he does have a lot to work on to being a good player in this league. Now, do I think Alex Sarr, my number 1 player in the draft, has all NBA upside? No, but I do think he'll be an all-star in his career. I don't know if I'm going to have anybody in that All-NBA upside tier, but Alex Sarr, man, got off to a tough start, was taking a ton of threes, wasn't hitting those threes. Obviously, like I mentioned before with Bob Carrington, he's in a terrible environment in Washington this year in terms of winning, but he's still a teenager. He's 19 years old, and he's been a very good rim protector for not having good help defense around him. He's no Wemby defensively, but I think he is one of the better defenders in this class after like Ryan Dunn. And you could see what he's been as of late. If I pull up his splits, like got off to a terrible start this year, was terrible in the preseason, was terrible in the summer league. Basically averaged 11 points, 6 rebounds on 47% true shooting, and was great in the month of December where he's averaging 14, 6, and 2. This month the true shooting has dropped a little bit so far, but we're seeing him, I think, be a little bit more involved in the offense. And I think what I'm seeing from him as a teenager, the way he's able to hand the rock, the reads he can make on the defensive end of the floor after not even playing like an insane amount last year at Perth. And I think like even you tie into the bad environment right now in DC, the not really great veteran leadership. I mean, like, I'm just not the biggest fan of Kuzma and Poole being your veterans. Now, Brogdon and Valanciunas help a ton, but are they going to be on the team after this deadline? But I think Sarr can definitely be an all-star one day. I think the pre-draft comps were like a Jaren Jackson Jr. at his best. Well, I think he gets there. We'll see about the three-point shot, but I think he could be more physical inside presence than Triple J, and I think could win a DPOY one day. It will be tough because Wemby's in this league, but I do think he can get multiple top 5 DPOY finishes one day, which can make him an all-star in this league. So I think him and Jared McCain probably have the 2 highest upside. I just don't know if I see all-NBA. If I had to say McCain or Sarr in all-NBA upside, I'd take Alex Sarr. Kyle Filipowski, I think I don't know if he's going to be a good starter in this league, but I think he'd be a good rotational player. Like, he's shown, I think, something this year, at least offensively. It's been a bad environment in Utah, similar to what we talked about with Cody Williams before. They're going to be losing a lot of games now and probably in the future, but I think I've seen, like what I've seen offensively for him. I didn't love him at Duke, and I did worry about, like, his footwork, his defense, even the offensive game when he's not getting wide open threes, which I think do have its question marks, but I don't think he's, like, a clunky big man. He's not awkward with the ball. And he can move well, even if the footwork's not great defensively. But I think he's shown enough promise where he could be a rotational piece in this league. Next up, we do have Jalen Tyson of the Cavs. I'm debating like where I want to put him because I could put him in the really like haven't seen enough. I think I may throw him in there because he has shown promise, like that one game against the Pelicans where they had injuries. He dropped 16 and 11. But that's the only game this year. How many games? That was the only game this year where we saw him play above 15 minutes. Yeah, like looking at Tyson's sample size, I haven't seen enough, but he is 22 years old. I liked him at Cal. I liked his fit on Cleveland. We'll probably see him more involved next year if that forward group gets changed around a little bit. Man, Yves Missi has shown a ton of promise this year. He has. I think he still needs to work on just being an overall defender, both in the help and as a rim protector, but we have seen the flashes this year. He can run the floor very well. He's a very good athlete, and I think just when his feel for the game increases, and this team, like, he's going to grow chemistry with guys that are going to be here. Herb Jones is going to be here. Trey Murphy's going to be here. You like it or not, DeJounte Murray's going to be here over time. Jordan Hawkins is going to be here. He's going to grow chemistry with these guys, even with Zion and Ingram potentially not being here in the long term. And I think Missi is looking like a great pick at 21st overall. I do wonder, though, if this Pelicans team didn't have all these injuries and we were seeing Missi be the starting center in more meaningful like games and minutes, how would that reflect him this year? Because a lot of his playing time has become like, I mean, it's not garbage time, but they haven't been competitive in a ton of games this year. They just haven't. You can see they've had a lot of bad losses when Yves Missi has played, and that's more the whole to the Pelicans and not Yves Missi. So we'll see how he looks when it's more important games, but I do think he can work on some things, but I think he's shown a ton of promise for sure. Deron Holmes, obviously he's out for the year, haven't seen enough. AJ Johnson, I mean, this is why I like this channel, man, because this is something I'm never really gonna be able to talk about on Twitter, or like any of my other channels, unless it's like a rebuild. But AJ Johnson, man, I tweeted out, oh, what was it? It was like Bronny James is more NBA ready than AJ Johnson was. And AJ Johnson had a productive summer league, and I think he had a couple good preseason games, if I can remember. In my mentions on Twitter, I've never seen them be that flooded outside of one thing, and that was me having Scotty Barnes ranked 47th going into this year, which honestly, I think I deserve some apologies, but I'm not talking about that right now. But either way, AJ Johnson, I think you develop him, you invest your time and be patient with him, can be a good player. I hated the pick at 23 because Milwaukee We want to go to this NBA draft right now. How many guys after this pick could they need in their rotation for one of the weakest bench units for a team that is very top heavy right now? Because they could definitely use a Ryan Dunn, 100%. Even if it's Kyle Filipowski, even if it's Tyler Kolek, Jonathan Mogbo, AJ Mitchell, if you want to take somebody in a similar position, Jalen Wells, Oso Ighodaro, Pele Larson, who I think needs more minutes in the second half, Jamal Shed. Plenty of these guys would be impact players if they actually had a good player development staff. And that's why I'm worried about AJ Johnson. But it's funny because I think Bronny is still probably more NBA ready right now. Like, I don't know AJ Johnson's G League stats all the time, but it doesn't matter. Like, we're comparing, it's Bronny G. Okay, I don't know why I went out to this tangent. I'll take an L, but I don't think it had to be that extreme as Bucks fans were giving me like death threats on Twitter about this, which is just crazy. But yeah, we haven't seen enough of AJ. That was a weird tangent just to say we haven't seen enough of him yet. I think Keyshawn George, he's probably has a lot to work on, or is in my showing promise tier. I like what he could be. Low-key is a playmaker at 6'7". Like, not like Anthony Black level vision from last year, and I'm not saying that because of the hair, but I think it's more so like he's got the size, the three-point shot could come and go, but I think he does have a lot to work on, because I don't think he's shown enough this year. But like, I like the defense, I do, and I liked it at Miami. I thought he was going to be somebody that was going to maybe stay another year or something like that. So next up, we have Bakome Dadiet. Just haven't seen enough, and I don't think Tibbs is going to play him whatsoever this year. Wouldn't be surprised if he ends up getting traded. Dylan Jones, man, he's had some games this year. He had some games in the preseason as well. I don't know. Is it 1L? Dylan? No. Am I spelling it? No, there it is. I spelled it right. So, yeah, Dylan Jones, I'm probably going to put, like, he's been in 26 games, but I kind of want to put him, like, haven't seen enough, because it's just, like, not consistent playing time after that first month of the year. Like, it's been very inconsistent since November. Do I think he has a lot to work on? I don't know. He's 23. I would just say I haven't seen enough. It's tough, but like AJ Mitchell's been getting a lot of runtime there in OKC. Terrence Shannon Jr. haven't seen enough. I mean, I think Minnesota could lean into. I mean, maybe Terrence Shannon Jr. is not playing well in practice, but they could really lean into playing their rookies a little bit more. Like Justin Edwards has a 20-point performance this year. Antonio Reeves has a 20-point performance this year. This is an undrafted and second-round Kentucky player, but Rob Dillingham doesn't have one yet this year. Yeah, like Shannon Jr., we just haven't seen enough. Ryan Dunn, he's shown promise for sure, but do I think he could be a good starter in this league? I think the shot could eventually come around. I mean, 31% from three is better than what I thought it was going to be. What was it last year at Virginia? High 20s. He shot 20%. No, he shot 20% from three. He shot 31% from three on 16 threes as a freshman. I think he could be a good starter, though, because I just love the defense that Ryan Dunn provides you. Isaiah Collier has not been great this year. He had that game, though, against Brooklyn, and he had, like, a really cool split through at the end of the game to kind of have that go-ahead bucket. Is that his only good game of the year, though, honestly? Because Collier has struggled. And I think was always going to benefit time in the G League, but it's kind of like the Keontae George thing. He's just thrown out into the fire playing a ton, which I think is actually better for his development. And I've seen playmaking vision for sure. Like, you look at his last... I mean, we could pull up his last, I don't know how many games this is. Last 10 games, he's averaging 6 assists tonight. I kind of don't mind Collier in that sense, but when I'm watching him, like, try to finish at the rim, it's tough. I think, do I want to say showing promise, or I think he's shown promise. I do. I think he's in a bad situation, and I think he's shown enough promise as like Kyle Filipowski has this year. We just haven't seen enough of Reed Sheppard. I wonder if Reed Sheppard is going to be best suited there in Houston. Or is he going to just end up being in a Devin Booker trade or a Zion Williamson trade or some trade down the line? But yeah, unfortunately, Reed Sheppard's in the G League. I think he dropped like 40-something points or 50 points. Or it was a ton in his first G League game. And maybe he ends up playing for the Rockets after the trade deadline. But I just don't know when it's going to come because he's not knocking down his threes. He wasn't. And I feel like he didn't have the confidence that he had in Summer League or preseason. Maybe this is Scoot Henderson 2.0. But he just doesn't have the confidence. And if it's not falling, it's really tough to play him. On a team that's top of the Western Conference, not one, but they're up there right now. Baylor Shireman, haven't really seen enough of him. There was a lot of like hype to Baylor close to the draft as a first round prospect. He ends up going number 30. He's 24. Don't think we're going to see him this year. And like, is he ever going to crack minutes over like Jordan Walsh going forward or some of these other guys? Obviously not Hauser. But yeah, I think he's got to go in the haven't seen enough tier yet. We'll see how he's going to be part of this future. We have next up, Jonathan Mogbo, who honestly has shown good defensive flashes, and I think has shown promise on that end of the floor. He was always like a weird tweener size guy because he's 6'9", but he can't really shoot the ball. But this year, I mean, he's taken how many threes? It's not a lot. He's taken 25 threes. He's knocked down 8 of them. Hey, rather you knock down 8 of them than 4 of them. So I think Mogbo, I don't know if he's going to be a good starter to speak, but I think he'll be a good role player. So I think he's shown some promise. Next up, we have Tyler Smith, one of my favorite prospects in the draft. I was very high on Tyler Smith coming out of the G League. Hated him going to Milwaukee. I would love to be watching him in New Orleans or Philadelphia or Utah, where he could have actually gone like time to play this year. But we're just not seeing that from him, and we may not see that at all this year. Maybe he's in a trade. Tyler Kolek, I think he's, I don't know. We haven't seen a ton of Tyler Kolek this year, but he's the only guy that, I don't know if it's in NBA history, that has played a G League game where he dropped like he had an insane game in like the G League showcase and then played an NBA game in the same day, which is crazy. But he's just not going to play a ton under Tibbs. The defense isn't great, so I'm going to throw him in the haven't seen enough tier. Johnny Furphy for the Indiana Pacers, a team that has a plethora of wings, has appeared in 26 games this year. I want to put him in the haven't seen enough. Another guy, like he's 20 years old, I thought could have benefited staying another year at Kentucky. He has 3 games above 20 minutes this year. One of those games he did knock down 4 threes, but yeah, a lot of garbage time, a lot of meaningful minutes, or not meaningful minutes for Furphy. He's in the haven't seen enough tier. Same with Juan Nunez, haven't seen enough. Next up, we have Bobby Klitman over there in Detroit. 1 game this year. Haven't seen enough. I was like, yeah, wait, has he? I don't think he's played, but I just had to double check that. AJ Mitchell, good starter peak. Yeah, I don't know if he'll ever be an all-star, but man, AJ Mitchell has been a fun player for a good OKC. Like the fact that he's able to crack this rotation, and it sucks he's missing, I think, 8 to 10 weeks with a toe injury. Yeah, turf toe sprain. Great. Love that. It's like Michael Thomas 2.0. But yeah, he was really heating up. It's a great, viable backup guard option for this team. It has been a lot better offensively than Alex Caruso has this year. And not maybe better overall. Definitely not as a shooter as Isaiah Joe with just the volume. But not as like kind of close to what Isaiah Joe has been offensively this year. Maybe even better, well-rounded. So it's a shame he's going to miss maybe the rest of his rookie year or close to it. Next up, we have Jalen Wells. Do I think Jalen Wells could be an all-star? Probably not, but good starter peak 100%. 100% Jalen Wells, who's been a very good defender. He's shooting 38% from 3. 21 years old. I didn't know much about him at Washington State until the combine, and then I'm watching him. I'm like, all right, there's definitely some second round upside. Grizzlies did it again, man. They did it with GG Jackson, did it with Vince Williams, did it again with Jalen Wells. And I don't think he'll be an all-star. Definitely not in Memphis with John Triple J there. But I think he could be a very good rotational piece in the long term. And if he could be a good 3-point shooter, that's what they need. 3-and-D basically there at the top. Stephon Castle, I don't think is going to be an all-star in the league because I don't know about the offensive potential. And as San Antonio gets further and further out into this end of the rebuild and they're adding better and better talent and more draft picks, I don't think he's going to have as much of a chance to shine. 40% from the field, 25% from 3. It's not great this year. 39% from the field, you could say. I love the defense, and there's been some really good moments for him offensively this year, and I like his off-ball ability, and I think playing with Chris Paul helps. Like when Chris Paul eventually retires, that may hurt. Was good in November, not as much in December, but I think at his peak is going to be a good starter in this league. Oso Ighodaro, I mean, Jesus, man, the Suns have been an absolute mess this year. Nurkic is getting DNPs. I kind of like Oso. I kind of like him more than Mason Plumlee right now. I think he's shown promise. I think we know what he is. He's not as raw as a prospect as like Matas, Cody, Walter, Keyshawn George were coming out of college. But Dembona, I mean, I guess haven't really seen enough of him. He did get 15 minutes the other night. Or was it, how much did he play against OKC? 16 minutes against them. I just love his energy and his athleticism. Like he stood out to me at the combine, but I'll just say I haven't seen enough. KJ Simpson for the Charlotte Hornets. Probably haven't seen like too much. I don't like, he was like a standout too from the combine scrimmage. I don't know if I want to throw him in the a lot to work on. He's 22, but he's going to be behind LaMelo Ball. I'll probably put him in the just haven't seen enough of him so far this year. Nikola Jurisic, just haven't seen him at all this year. Hasn't played yet for the Miami Heat. Fun combine player. I guess they're really going to be patient on him. I think Pele Larson has shown some promise. He is somebody that I would like to see more minutes from after the trade deadline, like once Jimmy Butler's off this team, because I kind of like some of the energy he provides you, and I think he could be a plus 3-point shooter. He can crash the offensive glass, which I love, and I think could be like just another Hayward Highsmith, Drew Smith guy for them, which is the Miami Heat way. We got Jamal Shed up next. I don't know if Jamal Shed is ever going to be like a starter in this league because of the offensive limitations. But, you know, knocking down 36% of your threes this year. He's such a good defender. I think he's shown a ton of promise, but he's what, older as well. He's 20, he's 22. You know what? I think he could be a good starter. I do. I don't think he's as far behind as like some of these guys, like Devin Carter maybe. Definitely I'm taking Devin Carter over him, but I think Jamal Shed, if he can actually be a positive three-point shooter, he can be good enough just based off the defense. Cam Christie, another guy we haven't seen enough of this year. Still just 19, which is cool. Antonio Reeves. Am I tripping or did Antonio Reeves get waived? Why do I feel like he got waived? But I don't think he did. Could be wrong. No, he definitely didn't get waived. No, he played the other night. It might have been like somebody else I'm thinking of. I don't know. I don't think it was Elfrid Payton I'm thinking of. But either way, he had a 34-point performance against the Cavs. Okay. Like, what? That just out of nowhere. I don't know if there's a lot to work on. Haven't seen enough. I just don't know if he was ever going to be much in this league. Next up, for the San Antonio Spurs, we have Harrison Ingram. How old is Harrison Ingram? Is he 22? He is 22. Just somebody we haven't seen enough of this year. I guess we can go through some of these guys that I'd rather talk about a little bit more. Like, I'm going to throw Bronny and haven't seen enough. Cam Spencer. I kind of like Cam Spencer, man. Quinn Post, we haven't seen enough. Same with Melvin Ajinka. Ariel Hook-Porty, I think has shown promise. I think out of all the Knicks rookies, he's shown the most promise, honestly, as like a rim runner big. Kevin McCullough hasn't played yet this year. Like Rob Dillingham, I think does have a lot to work on. And I guess it's on the defensive end if they're not going to fully commit to him as a starter. I think he could still be this microwave scorer that Minnesota traded up to the 8th overall pick for. He's still 20 years old. But I still think he's going to be a good shooter. He does have a lot to work on. Yeah, you could say that. I think Tijon Salon has a ton to work on. Maybe the most raw prospect in this draft. And he did go in the top 10. Another player that hasn't played yet, or he's played 5 games, Arik Chomchi. Speaking of maybe the most raw prospect in this draft, we're going to throw him in the haven't seen enough tier. And then next up, we do have, I'm just going to throw these guys in here, like Enrique Freeman, who did start a game this year for the Pacers. That's when I think Miles Turner was down. I think he might have started at center against the Raptors. Maybe they're like, we can maybe get away with this. But just overall, haven't seen enough. And then Tristan Newton, haven't seen enough. And then the last guy I'm going to put in there is the Boston Celtics second round pick, which would be Anton Watson. Just haven't seen enough of. All right, so I guess I can also probably put Cam Spencer in here just because Cam Spencer dropped 50 in a G League game. I just kind of like him going to Memphis. I think it's cool. And then he grabs the ball from Devin Booker. So last 2 guys we're going to talk about, Ron Holland, Donovan Clingan, Zach Edey. I think, I don't know if Zach Edey has all-star upside. I think we're pretty much at his, not his peak, but this is going to be the role he's going to be in. And I think Zach Edey's going to benefit from being on the team that drafted him, that's utilizing his skill set. He sets great screens. He could score inside. I think he's moving a little bit quicker than people thought. And yeah, I think if he's somebody that could be this 25, 24 minute a night big that's going to get rebounds, that can rim protect, that could just be the 7'4" body inside. The thing with him is, can he be consistently healthy? He's had a lot of injuries, like tiny injuries this year, so I want him to stay healthy. But I think Zach Edey is looking like a good pick at number 9 overall. With Clingan off the board, they go Edey instead of going maybe Kel'el Ware, a little bit more of a project play, or Yves Missi. I think good big men that could be in this league for a long time, but I think Edey is looking like the right pick. And I haven't even thought of a 2024 redraft, and I don't want to right now, but I do wonder where he would go when I make that video, probably at the end of the year. Man, I love what Ron Holland has shown defensively. I do. Always the question marks with his offensive consistency, and I think at least you're going to look at the numbers similar to maybe what Ausar Thompson looked like in his rookie year. But I think Holland is a little bit more polished offensively, and I trust his shot way more. Maybe doesn't have the defensive upside as Thompson does, but I think I've seen some insane defensive plays for him. There was that block, I think, on RJ Barrett. It was against Toronto early in the year where I'm like, all right, this is the Ron Holland I had 3rd overall, second overall on my big board. 19 still a teenager. I'm a big Ron Holland fan. I think has shown promise, at least defensively. And then I think I'm actually going to bump Hook-Porty down to haven't seen enough. These other guys have played a little bit more. And then Donovan Clingan. I don't think Donovan Clingan's going to be an all-star maybe one day, but I think has a good starter peak in this league. We have seen some bad body language from DeAndre Ayton recently, and he didn't play a lot in their last game against the Nets. I think it's Clingan time, and I'm excited. Did Clingan start this game? Or he started 8 games this year, and I think Clingan has snatched that starting role. You can see the last 3 games he's been playing more than he has all year. He's a good rebounder, The instincts are there as a rim protector, and I really like this pick for Portland. I think it's 2 thumbs up. So that is my like grading every rookie so far this season. I mean, shout out to Justin Edwards, who did well against the OKC Thunder, or Keyshawn Johnson in Miami, or Isaac Jones in Sacramento. I don't know if there's been like a great undrafted rookie so far. So I think, yeah, I still don't know if there's going to be any All-NBA upside in this draft. If I had to say yes or no, anybody in this draft class, I would say no. So I'm going to delete the top row. Top row is at least making one All-Star in their career, Alex Sarr and Jared McCain. Good starter peak. We have a ton of guys here. I think I'm maybe a little bit generous to like Devin Carter so far. Maybe Dalton Connect because he's a little bit on the older side, but the guys I like the most out of this good starter peak, Edey, Klingon, AJ Mitchell, Reese Shea, Jalen Wells. Castle's going to be an interesting one. He's going to need a big year too. I think a ton of rookies, though, have shown promise. I think all these guys and a lot to work on. I'm excited about, and I would still take probably in the first round 100%. And I just hope get more touches as the season progresses, depending on, like, obviously their team fit matters. And then there's a bunch of rookies we haven't seen enough yet. So let me know what you guys think of this down below. Hope you guys did enjoy. Drop a thumbs up if you're on YouTube, and you can let me know in the comments what you guys think. Subscribe to the channel. And then if you're listening on audio, links to that are in the YouTube description. And if you're listening there, appreciate a 5-star rating and review if you're on Apple Pod or Spotify. And I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.